I know you're talking about?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
She's a Valley girl before there were Valley girls. And she and her cousin came to the city to become. Her cousin was going to become a pianist, and Leslie was going to become an officer. So that was their mission. And they come into the Haight-Ashbury. That's a story in itself. But I didn't know them then. Oh, we're working? Oh, we are.
We're rolling.
Oh,
We are.
sorry. I'm sorry.
For what?
Can we start that again?
Nope.
We'll
Why?
start again, starting now.
Now, all right.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. We're continuing.
Jesus.
And we're back.
In case you
And-
lost touch with us,
Right.
we are back.
Right. After the word from our sponsors, right?
We're refreshed and we're ready to roll.
After a quick pair.
Yeah.
Paring it down.
And now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other things that were going on, and I'd certainly like to mention Ken Kesey. I didn't meet him, but I did meet some of the pranksters who were on his bus, and the bus simply said further as their destination. These were the pranksters on a magic bus who would travel from the city to LA and San Diego and back, picking up all kinds of people and just having grand old time. Most of it was based upon acid tripping while you're traveling in this great VW bus. And so they would stop at places and people would congregate and want to know what that was all about. And Ken Kesey had just written Somewhere Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which had been made into a film with Robin Wood, no, not Robin.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, yeah, and very, very popular, wonderful film. And he was very, very much sought after and became quite well known in the northern part of the state. I believe he had some attachment to Eureka and places up north, Mendocino. So that was another reason why he wanted to stay on the West Coast, in particular, because he found acceptance. Very bright guy, really brilliant guy. I wish that I had met him.
But you met some of the other pranksters?
Yeah, some of the pranksters who knew him. Nobody of name, but they were instrumental in getting Kerouac and Neil Cassidy and other people on the bus.
Yeah.
So they were a part of this, but just hippies from the Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them became prominent in the same way that these other individuals did.
And you remember seeing those couple of guys that you mentioned?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
And of course they would have shirts talking about the pranksters and acid in particular. They were very fond of meeting people who were interested in knowing about acid testing, acid tripping, and wanting to convert people. That's what the pranksters were about, really, and trying to convert normal citizens so that they would have a vision, unique, and change them over and maybe instill the idea of peace and love in them.
Start wearing beads and
wearing
tape
beads,
on your hat.
tie-dye, and that's another thing, is the kind of clothing. The clothing was essential. People wanted to wear their bell-bottoms. It started in London and Chelsea, and became prominent with the British invasion of the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and my favorite still, the Dave Clark Five. The Dave Clark Five were as big as the Beatles, but they were overshadowed by the Beatles. The Beatles got to America quicker, faster, and so they were left behind. They were really, I think, fabulous if you ever get a chance.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, the Dave Clark Five.
Have you?
As prominent as the Stones and the Beatles, their inception, when all of them were started, like 1963, 64, they were working in different clubs in England and then coalesced into these various groups, come to America with several of the British bands were coming. Some of the others, Hermits. Hermits were big. Well, we can maybe come back to that. Yeah, not so important right now. But the invasion did prove one thing, that England had a stronghold on the kind of rock and roll music that America Wanted. And that's why the Beatles suddenly became such an instant flash when they came here. And people responded. They had heard these bands in England, British music coming over to America. They welcomed and championed them. My first girlfriend, who I just spoke to the other day, she is now 71 and living in Vegas. And she was selected in her Marin County High School to interview the Beatles. And she was all of 15 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And was losing her mind. And went to San Francisco, came to San Francisco when they first appeared here for their concert. I think this was probably, I want to say 64, 65. I'm not exactly certain of the date. And so she had a chance to interview McCartney. And you know, I still remind her of that every so often when she's feeling down about health issues. I said, hey, you know, 15 years old, you're talking about Sir McCartney. Now you have right. Sir Alex. Yeah. Anyway, so it was a great time to hear this wonderful music. And everything in Haight-Ashbury suddenly changed to bell-bottoms, the Beatle boots. The Beatles wore the black suede boots. It was fashioned a little bit similar to a cowboy boot. Pointed toe up to beyond the ankle and zippered on the side. And these are the boots they appear in when you see them in concert. And so they became, and everybody wanted to cut looking like the Beatles.
So how did you adapt your wardrobe?
I didn't. I didn't. I was always doing my own long-haired, long-beard thing because I liked that look, and I didn't think it would work for me to have kind of a Cleopatra cut. So it never appealed to me to do that. But I did love the bell bottoms, and I wish that I still had. Probably wouldn't fit, but it would be nice to have them. I love the shirts. A lot of them were polyester, but they had beautiful designs on them. A lot of paisley, a lot of swirls. Found their way into the poster designs for all of Bill Graham. Bill Graham had his place in Winterland and in Fillmore West, and Chet Helms, his competition, had the Avalon Ballroom. And so you could either go to one or the other, but most people prefer to stay in one camp because they represented different performers, different groups. I tended to go because that wasn't so important to me. The important thing was to see different clubs and to see different friends. So it didn't matter who was playing. I was never really a slave to any particular group, although I did really like the Beatles. I still am a Beatles fan, hardcore, I think. But a lot of local bands were very, very good. There was one called Country Joe and the Fish from Marin County. There was the Sons of Champlin, again, locally. There was the Congress of Wonders. By the way, did you check out the Chambers Brothers, Time?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I wrote it down.
I did as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really would love to see what you guys think of that.
We can talk about that and that great science fiction novel that you gave me.
Oh good, you like it?
So far.
Okay.
So far, we will discuss.
All right, okay. I know science fiction can have an interesting effect on you. It draws you in and then maybe it doesn't deliver, or maybe it goes somewhere else.
I quite enjoyed that stuff when I was younger, So it's my first time putting my toe back in that pool in a long time.
Back in that youth program.
That's right. Back when I was in the youth program. Now I'm running it. So
All right.
How are we on time?
We're at 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
What else would you like to talk about?
Let's see. I would like to talk about the importance of astrology. So the average conversation when you walk into a group sitting in a park might be, hey, I'm Alex, who are you? What's your sign? Okay, well,
Really?
yeah.
I didn't know that was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was major,
Yeah.
major, and you establish relationships based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you had a very superficial knowledge of astrology, and most people did have
Yeah.
very superficial knowledge. So, or if you were really intense, you would go to an astrologer and get your natal chart. In other words, what was the position of the universe? Where were the planets when you were born?
Yeah.
On the day you were born, Uranus was here, Pluto was here, Mars was here.
Well, I know where Minus was when I was born, but I guess that's not quite what you were
It
asking.
might have been on your body.
It might have been. It might have been. It might have been. I don't have any photographs, but I reason to assume. Alex, speaking of
I
which,
knew that was coming.
and tell me, Alex, your birthday again?
Okay, yes. I am December 23rd,
Mm-hmm.
1944.
All right. Thank you very much.
I was born the last week of 44. The war is about to end. My birth is bringing about peace, which happened 6 months later, June of 45. Japan surrenders. And so I feel that I was instrumental in that being here at the right time.
Just in time for this special fun stuff.
That's right. That's right. The idea of astrology, for example, in my case, is I'm a Capricorn. The characteristics of the Capricorn: diplomacy, political career, wanting to be in the limelight all the time, stable as a tree. In fact, more so. Not no one with head in the clouds. So that sums up me, and I think it does a good job. Leslie, my wife, is a Aquarian Pisces. She's a fish, and she's mercurial. And she's able to move through things emotionally very, very well. I think that typifies her. She's not rigid. I'm more rigid when it comes to circumstances, decision making. And this is how we sometimes hit each other in a place of resistance. I want to do this, she wants to do that. Well, wait a minute. You're not looking at the big picture. Well, hell with the big picture. So, anyway, I'm getting off the track. The importance in those days for astrology was simply that you would be able to base your new relationship on whether or not it was astrologically sound. Okay, so for me, I should be with a Cancer woman. That's ideal. And as you begin to look into this, you see what your pairing is. I used to know this really well, but it never comes up anymore. But in those days, you talked about it all the time. See? And it meant something. Okay, where are your houses? Well, I have most of my houses in the fifth house. So that means that I'm more concerned with stability and work and labor. And another person, Aries, for example, typically an airhead, is someone in the clouds, so someone who is kind of.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah.
You want to grab them, put them down, and say, "Listen, calm down, get stable, get some roots going."
An airhead. I would think like a hothead.
No, hothead is your Leo, your lion, or your Taurus. Your Taurus is really stubborn, bullheaded. The Taurian person is one that you have to really watch for. And I think these are universally perhaps ill-founded because we don't have a real science here. There are people who are very serious about this, and they'll sit you down and they'll really give you a great story. So maybe it's acceptable to you. But everybody was doing it in a superficial manner. Oh, you're a Taurus, I can't be with you. You know, not enough to go on.
Right. Right.
But so that was big. The other thing is you had to wear appropriate clothing. The beads were essential. You have your own style of beads. You trade beads, constantly trading. Pins. I wear so important.
Yeah.
And slogans were a big issue. So you go to the head Ashbury and go to the store and maybe look through 300 or 400 pins to get your slogan, which you would wear. And then your peace symbol was important. You had to have a peace symbol, very much like the one yours. And even on a pin, those were important. And tie tie-dyeing, of course. And for me, the tie-dyeing became more important as I got older. And as the movement had reached its finale, I became suddenly, as an artist, more interested in coloration of a shirt, and then went into my own designs and my variations on, well, what if Jackson Pollock made a shirt? Well, it would look like this. So instead of the traditional dyeing of taking your cotton and putting dyes on it and then unraveling it and seeing the pattern it made, I like the idea of applying paint and splashing paint in such an interesting way. So this is more your traditional, and I like it. And I see every so often someone will have it. Usually they're a lot younger than me, and I'm thinking, I'm glad they found out about this, because it's pretty darn neat.
Do you ever talk to them about it?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And a lot of Europeans want to hear about the whole movement.
Yeah.
They're more receptive than American kids are when I talk to them.
Why do you think that?
About the movement. I think it's too foreign for American kids to conceptualize. But I think the European person has more a sense of greater social milieu that they grow up with. There's more of a worldliness. I think your American kid is a little bit of tunnel vision.
The American kid in America versus the European kid.
Yeah. Well, you probably have seen that in your travels, like in Hungary. They're more well-rounded and more interested in other cultures. So I think when I met a couple of Danish girls a year ago. We have some time. Can we talk to you? Can you tell us about this?
Oh, great.
And of course, I was ready for that.
Thought you'd never ask.
And so we had a great hour.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
And they were appreciative.
Yeah. I bet a lot of people would love to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, every day you'd be booked solid.
Oh, well, it's an idea for
No doubt.
For some income.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
Yeah.
Someone said, why not give tours, hippie tours?
Yeah.
Somebody is doing that.
You mentioned a woman, right?
Oh.
Or maybe that's somebody else.
No. There's a woman in North Beach I'll introduce
Okay,
you.
yeah.
Bettina. No, not Bettina. Wait a minute, it sounds like that. I see her every so often. She was instrumental in getting the posters, the Bill Graham posters, to Friedman, who was the owner of the Real Poster Shop on Grand Avenue. It was a huge warehouse kind of place. And you go in and you buy any particular poster you wanted with any particular group, at the Avalon, at Winterland. And then, of course, you didn't know that those were going to become iconic and worth a lot of money today.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of them just put these up in your room and have your black light. That was essentially, you got to have your black light so that you can see what's really going on in that poster and get the right coloration.
Yeah.
And then your clothing can reflect that too. So I went wild with some psychedelic Dayglow paint so that I could be seen if I went to someone's house. And I'd be glowing.
Yeah.
One guy greeted me at the door and he says, "Oh, wow." He says, "Wait a minute, I'll go get my camera." And he says, "Can you help me with these bags?" So I helped him with 2 shopping bags, and they were full of grass up to the top, ready to be culled, and seeds to be removed.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing kind of time where people would have great reserves of drugs available for them. Cocaine was coming into the picture, but it was not the drug of choice. People like their weed, and they like their hash. It really became a matter of, you have Mission on? No, I got Maui Wow. Okay, I'll trade you, a dime's worth for this and the other. So other drugs were kind of foreign. There was also an interest in psilocybin and magic mushrooms, peyote mushrooms, because Castaneda had written all his books. I was a firm reader of all of his books. I still have them. I don't see them very much. Do you know about Carlos Castaneda?
Is he one of the people that you mentioned in the back of your book?
Yes, yes.
I think I may have been reading about him then.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'd never heard of him prior.
Okay, he created this Don Juan. Don Juan was a famous Sonoran Toltec Indian who was his guide, his mentor and guru. So Carlos would disappear for weeks and months under the tutelage of Don Juan. And then when he finished his course of study, he would write a book, Separate Reality, Tales of a Yaqui Indian, and everybody would take hold of those in the 70s because they were so stimulating intellectually and spiritually. There would be little vignettes. For example, Don Juan would be Carlos would be driving Don Juan, who's a much older man, Indian, and very much quiet and sedate, like most Indians can be. You know, they'll get involved in discussion, but they would rather be very quiet and just say a few things. So that was the way that was the way that Don Juan was. So Carlos is driving through the Sonoran Desert late at night in Mexico, and he looks over at the fellow. He says, "Don Juan," he says, "what is that light in back of us? Big light in back of us." And he says, "That's your death." Stuff like that. So then, of course, you start telling those little vignettes to old friends. Did you read about this? Did you read about the novel? The novel is the sense of this foreboding that you get when you're out by yourself somewhere in a foreign setting, and you suddenly get panicky for no reason. It's the novel.
Novel.
The novel, yeah. N-A-G-U-A-L. Novel. And it's this idea of you're being disconnected or unhinged without knowing it. And it could be anywhere. It could be in a space. One time I had the novel attack on Market Street. But nobody threatening at the time, but I just had the sense of being lost. And I remember I was only about 16. It was very frightening. That was the first time I had an attack of what I would call a novel. And then throughout my life, there have been times when different places of the city maybe, or in Europe. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. It's a sense of, you're aware of your mortality all of a sudden. And it just hits you like a bolt of lightning. Oh my God. And you feel frightened.
I know exactly
you
what
have
you're
physical experiences too, like clamminess, sweating.
Stomach.
Stomach, queasiness, palpitations of the heart, whatever. What we would now call a panic attack. I think this is a better explanation. I had one driving to Mill Valley. No, I was in Mill Valley going to my sister's in Fairfax, driving my Super Sport muscle car, 396 Chevrolet, huge horsepower. And so I'm driving there, and suddenly I had this feeling of unrest and instability, I don't know what to call it, fearfulness. Pulled over, just trying to get control of myself for about 20 minutes. Drove on to my sister's. That surprised me. Visited with her, told her about it, came home. So there are points in my life where I remember those events. And now I'm more familiar with it. So if I feel it, I say, oh, it's the novel.
Does thinking of it that way help to make it feel more finite, or like it's...
Yes, it's a known. It's like, I guess someone would feel comfortable with a sense of a ghost or a sense of another presence that they can't quite pinpoint, but there's a feeling that someone's in the room, or something is in the room. So whatever you can attach to it, I think is helpful. And I think a lot of people go to therapy because they're having these feelings and not knowing how to establish what they are. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it's like the whole idea is you need to anchor it in something.
Yeah.
Because if it's just living in this sort of pea soup of your mind, it's really amorphous, and you have to objectify it.
Exactly.
Either conceptually or as an object or a spirit or something.
And the labeling gives you security. Because when it happens again, oh well.
It has parameters around it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is critical.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's
totally
still,
essential.
It's still upsetting. It's still scary, but you know it.
Right. You can manage it because it has a beginning and an end, and it has a name.
Right, right.
And the name, yeah.
Yeah, the name is everything.
That's what Carlos' books did. They gave people an understanding of that. Coming from this old Toltec tradition of Indian shaman. So it was very helpful to me and the farm. The bear, the moth, the squirrel. We got into these books, call on the phone, did you read this? No, you read this? No, did you read this? And then Carlos dies. Seriously. He was very hard to pinpoint. He wouldn't want interviews, he wouldn't want to be seen. So finally he passes away, and he was in some kind of a diner somewhere. It's a short order cook. I mean, he had been a successful author, making money off all these books, and then he dies in this ignominious fashion. Every so often you'll read about things about him that will surface. But at the time, that was also big in the 70s, and most hippies were fond of reading. I don't have it on my list, but it certainly belongs here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about that next time too. We'll talk about your book.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, do you still want to do more next time?
I mean,
we have some more
I think
questions.
absolutely.
All right,
I think
let's
absolutely, definitely.
Okay, you have to go.
Are we okay with pausing right now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.